Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, Tim and I are talking about how to navigate hard conversations with friends. So this is not going to be about family today. We've done difficult conversations before, but this one's really about the friends in your life and the acquaintances when someone's going through a chronic disease, a diagnosis of cancer, Alzheimer's, frontal lobe, any of the dementias. We're talking about when someone's going through a hard time. You've heard about something with finances, which that's a little bit more of something we don't hear about. But anything that you are aware of that's hard in somebody else's life, divorce, separation, okay? And the reason why we're having this conversation is because you all probably know I have an active practice, a psychotherapy and a life coaching practice. It's pretty much split down the middle. And these are conversations I have with my clients. These are conversations I'm having during the week that I often think to myself, oh, I have to bring this to the people on the podcast. I want you all to hear what it is that people are coming to me and talking about. Of course, you're never going to know who these people are, but I want to share with you what is resonating, especially when I hear something that's coming up, not just with one person, but two people or three people over a few weeks period of time. I think, all right, this is what's going on. And this is along the theme of what we're talking about doing this series about the things that people don't talk about. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. And this will have good takeaways because we all have difficult conversations, probably daily.
Well,
not
no,
necessarily.
we don't. These are difficult conversations with people who are going through hard times. And many of us are not having difficult conversations. We're not.
Or we don't know what to say and we
You
avoid
think
it.
it, but you don't know what to say, so you say nothing.
Yeah.
Which is oftentimes the case.
Yeah.
So I'm going to help you. I'm going to coach you all through how to learn to have these conversations and be comfortable with it and to know what the boundaries are, what not to say and what to say. Okay. So I'm going to coach you all up on hard conversations. So before we get started, please come talk to me. If you're interested in being coached by me, reach out to me, hello@annamarcolin.com, email me, and let's get on a call together. So most of you know I've been in the field of therapy for 30 years. I've been coaching for 10. Although I was coaching way before that, I realized as my colleagues in the coaching space told me, you're doing more coaching here than you are therapy because you're a lot like us. And my coaching comes from all of my years of being a competitive triathlete, 20 years of mental performance. So much of sport, as many of you know, 90% is mental. It's 10% physical and 90% is the mind. And so my coaching comes from a mental toughness, sport performance background. But my coaching clients come with every kind of issue. So I think what sets me apart from everybody else, not what I think, what I know sets me apart from everybody else is that I am a hybrid. People who come to me for coaching, they don't want therapy. They've been in therapy, but they love that I'm a mental health professional. They love it because they know that I have it in my back pocket and that I have a radar for what it is that people are really not saying in the coaching session, and I can pull that out of them. I think what I do is unique and it sets me above and beyond most of the other coaches out there. I'm going to toot my own horn. I don't do that very often. And it's the truth. And I hear it all the time in real life with my clients. So come talk to me. I would love to get on a call with you. And if you're in Illinois and you want therapy, reach out to me. The same email, hello@annamarcolin.com. Let's work together.
Nice.
Okay. So I'm going to take you through, and you may need to listen to this again if you're walking your dog or you're cleaning your house or you're driving in your car, because I have some really great actionable steps for all of you. I'd coach anybody on this. All right. This came out of, like I said, a conversation that I've been having with people around. They're going through a hard time in their life and they know their friends care. I mean, they know their friends care. And people are not reaching out to them. They're not holding space for them. And there's a feeling of loneliness and isolation when it's you that's sick. What I'm seeing a lot is the caregiver. My client's the caregiver, and they're caring for their child, they're caring for their spouse, or caring for their parents, and they're exhausted. And the friend calls, and it's an earnest, and it's out of true care and concern and compassion, but they don't know what's going on. And they don't even understand, like, let's say there's some sort of dementia going on with your parent or your spouse, and they don't understand, and they want you, the spouse or the adult child, to explain it to them. And it's like, I don't have the bandwidth or the mental capacity to explain to you what is going on with my mom right now. So we're going to start with that. All right. It is our job as the friends of to get educated. And this goes back to another conversation I was having many weeks ago with another client about this. And when she was talking about what she was going through with friends, asking questions, and she said, it's just so fatiguing for me to have to tell the story over and over and over again. It's exhausting. I'm already exhausted. I'm so mentally and emotionally exhausted. Now I'm feeling physically exhausted. I said, it reminds me of in 2020 during all the George Floyd stuff when the black people were really struggling with white Americans, or actually anybody who wasn't black, understanding their plight and what they've been through for 200 years in this country. And they were saying, especially, and I have a lot of individuals that I follow on social media who are African American, black, not all African American, actually, black people. And they were saying, please don't ask us to tell you our story. Go read. Go do your own education. Go read about what it has been like for us. It's not our job to educate you right now. We are exhausted. We're in a crisis with what's happened with George Floyd. It speaks so much to what's happening in this country, what has been happening in this country. You all have turned a blind eye. You haven't cared. You haven't wanted to know. Now you want to know. Go read.
Yeah.
And it's a good point.
It's all there.
It's a really
it's
good
all
point.
documented. It's been going on for
Books that are written about this.
decades and decades and
Yeah.
decades.
So it reminded me of that. And I said that to my client. She said, exactly. Anna, that's exactly how I feel. Please just go get some education so I don't have to explain it to you because it's exhausting to me.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So if you want to be one of those helpful friends, that's a way to start. And I want you to start by opening up the door slowly. Don't shove it open. So when you go into conversation, you could say something like, I know a lot is swirling around for you right now. Would you be open to talking about how you're really doing? That's a great question. I know a lot is swirling around in your mind right now. Would you be open to talking about how you're really doing? I think that's such a wonderful way to entree into a conversation with your friend, okay? Because what you're doing is you're asking for consent of your friend. You're asking for consent to talk about something that's going on in their life, and you're showing respect for them. You're showing respect for their pacing. And this is a core principle in supportive communication research. Really, really important. I know a lot is swirling right now. Would you be open to talking about how you're really doing? Great entree.
Yeah.
Great way to go in.
Well, you have to be ready to not get permission because that might happen. And then
you be good with it.
And you have to be able to accept
it.
that and receive
Right.
it. Yeah.
And they will remember that you asked them.
Yeah.
And you asked them in a way that was sort of like low key asking for consent and showing respect. They'll remember that. They just don't want to do it right then. And so number two, which I already started with because I think it's so important, is do your homework first before you go and talk to somebody about what it is that's going on with them. So you can go to WebMD, you can go to the Mayo Clinic online, you can go to the NIH, National Institute of Health, you can go to any sort of blog on separation, divorce, and get yourself educated. Learn, or chronic disease, learn to use terms like a flare up. Learn what metastatic means. That's with cancer patients. Learn what a trial separation means for your friend who's become separated from their partner. This really shows respect and reduces the need for that person to correct you. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be like, no, that's not what a flare up means. And most times, if it was me who was going through it, I wouldn't correct you. That's not what a flare up means. I would get that your heart is in the right place and that you are really just wanting to know. But at the same time, I know you don't fully understand. So I'm going to be very vanilla and very general with you.
Yeah. Because you're not sure where they're coming from at that point,
And
right?
sometimes we want to be very vanilla and very general, but sometimes it is helpful to have a friend. Oh, she gets this. Oh, she understands. Oh, she's done some homework. So she understands what a flare up is.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go a little deeper. I'll share, okay, this is what's really going on.
Yeah. And I would imagine much of this is driven by the strength of that relationship prior to this. There's some things that have laid the groundwork potentially for where this conversation could even possibly go based off of how good or deep of a friend this is, right?
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So number three, I want you to hold space. I don't want you to hijack it. Very, very important. I had this happen to me after my father passed, and I had some good friends reach out to me, wanted to get together. It had been a hard time for a while, and then he passed, and we got together. We went for a long walk, and my friend hijacked the entire conversation. I think I spoke for about 5 minutes about what it was like when he died and going back home. And I don't even remember talking for very long before my friend said, "Oh, that was like me when my grandmother," she started talking about her grandmother when her grandmother was ill. So, and I've had this happen to me before. I'm sure many of you who are watching and listening have had this happen to you before. I'm like, wait a minute, was it I talking about me? Wasn't this about me? Like, okay. That's another thing because I feel like I'm really a listener a lot of the times with my friends. I was annoyed with this. And so what happens is the person who's going through it can feel exhausted. I was exhausted, but I was looking forward to having this long walk and being able to sort of have my narrative and tell my story, sort of just to unload a little bit. And the one friend didn't realize she was doing it. It was an hour walk because I remember being exasperated. I was. And the entire time was about her grandmother's illness. And then we started talking about all the other things that were going on in her life. And I just shut up. I just shut up and said, this is not the time or the place. And obviously it's not happening. You know what I'm talking about because I
Yeah.
told you about it.
Yeah, I do.
I was really upset. I got nothing out of it. And this is something for all of you, and I didn't put this in my notes to also remember. You're going to have friends who are great at certain things, and you're going to have friends who this is not their gift. And that's what I have come to in my whole friendship analysis at this time in my life. You know, I mean, friendships for a reason, friendships for a season. And the friendships for a reason in the friendships right now in this season of my life, I have a lot of long-standing good friendships, and they each have gifts, and they don't all have the gift of being good listeners or really holding space. They take up the oxygen in the room. So those are friends that are wonderful in other ways, wonderful, but they're not the people that I'm going to go to when I'm really down and upset about something and I need someone just to, please don't talk. Please just let me talk for half an hour and let me just kind of unload this.
Yeah.
That person is a wonderful person, but that's not her gift.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was trying to say when I said the baseline of a friendship has been set for years.
Yes.
And you know what that person brings to the table, right? You already know before that phone call is made and they say, hey, you want to get together? You want to go for a walk? You want
I
to...
really didn't think on that walk that would happen, though. I really didn't, Tim. I really thought that
I think history
that
is
she
there
would
for a
just be
reason.
quiet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think history is there. If history repeats itself often, expect it's probably
Or
going to
maybe I
happen.
wanted
Well,
it to be
there you
that
go.
way.
There you go. That's exactly
I
right.
wanted it. I needed it. And it
Yeah.
didn't happen. I got disappointed.
You were hopeful.
Again.
You were
I
hopeful.
was hopeful and I got
Yeah.
disappointed
Yeah.
again. Okay, so know that about your friendships. Here's some examples of holding space for others and not hijacking it. These are some sentences you could use with people. Tell me what today feels like. I love that. Tell me what today feels like. Rather than, at least you don't have this or that or this, and this happened to my mom, and this is, don't do that. Don't do that. Another wonderful sentence you could use as someone who's going through a hard time is just to reflect their feelings back to them and say something like, wow, that sounds totally isolating. That sounds lonely. That's showing them that you really see them. You see what it might be like to be in their shoes. Walk a mile. Please don't give advice. Don't give advice to other people. People, for the most part, don't want your advice.
Yeah.
We want a sounding board. We want someone to listen. Most of us sort of kind of already know what we're doing, especially when you're going through a divorce and you have an attorney. Maybe you've got a therapist. Maybe you've got a coach. Maybe you've got a family member that you talk to that is trusted. Maybe you've got doctors and you've got a therapist again or a coach, or you've got people. Most of us have people in our lives who are giving us that advice that we're going to. Usually if it's medical, it's the medical team. We don't want advice from our friends. We just want a sounding board. We want a shoulder to lean on.
Yeah.
We want someone to listen.
And you're probably not going to take that advice anyway, unless it's amazing
Because
advice
I didn't ask for
and
it.
you haven't heard it before.
I don't want your unsolicited
Yeah.
advice. I didn't ask for it. Please don't give it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And please don't give people, look at the silver lining.
Mm.
And maybe most of you know this, but if you don't, learn it now. Don't say, hey, look at the bright side. Well, here's
But at least you
lining.
got this going for you.
Right. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't do that,
That's bad.
right?
That's a bad move.
And the next one is I want you to offer silence. And I know that this is really, really hard for people. Offer silence. Let them set the tempo of the conversation. You don't have to respond and speak at the end of every sentence or in a paragraph is ending or try to get yourself in there when there's a pause in what they're saying to you. Just stay quiet. Let them speak.
I think of it like a teeter-totter. There's the listening side, there's the talking side. And most of us think that teeter-totter needs to sit pretty level. I need to say as much as I listen. That's not true.
Right.
You don't have to. You can do more listening, less talking.
Well, in this situation, I'd say do almost all listening. I
Yes.
mean, you sit down the teeter-totter and let your friend be up in the air. Like, you hold the weight down. You listen to them.
Yeah.
Don't center their story around your story.
That's right.
So there you go. Probably one of the biggest things I could say that I think is so very important, although these are all important tips. This is a big one. Please don't make it about you. And if you are not aware of it, start to get awareness around it. And I can work with you on that. It's not about you. It's about them. Let it be about them. And here's what people do a lot of the time. And I think we don't realize, and unwittingly we're doing this. They're talking about what they're going through. They're talking about maybe they're taking care of their elderly parent and they have teenagers. So they're just in a crisis right now. Things are really hard. Maybe they have a sick dog or their kids partying and acting crazy in the rebellion stage. And who knows, you guys are two ships in the night with your relationship. All the things that so many of us are dealing with. And they're talking to you, and all of a sudden you're like, that reminds me, I remember when I went through that, and I remember when my mom, don't do that. So what happens is, in trying to join up with your person who's talking about their issues in their life, you think by telling them a similar story about your life is helping them. It's not. It's not helping them. Everybody needs to hear this. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Let them have the space. Let them have the floor. Don't take up any oxygen in the room. Let them have the room, the floor, the space. This happens a lot. I can remember throughout my life people who've done this. And I think to myself, wasn't this about me?
It happens all
the time.
All the time.
I'd be like,
but
wasn't this about me 5 minutes ago? And all of a sudden now we're talking about you and your
yeah.
relationship with your daughter.
Yeah.
What? It's not helpful to the person. So I feel strongly about this. And I'll say I'm not perfect with this either. I have done this. I noticed I've been doing it a little bit with my girls. You know, what happens is we want to be respectful. We don't want to be rude. We feel like saying something. But what they'll do is their eyes start to glaze over. And then I realize, I've taken something that they're telling me about their life now. I'm like, I remember when I was 25 and I have done it. And I'm trying to watch myself on that. Don't do it.
Well, but
I feel strongly about this because I see it so much, and I do it too.
Yeah, but what's the real root of that? Why do we gravitate towards doing that so often?
Our hearts are in the right place. I think we're trying to show that we're joining up with them in their struggle. We're trying to show empathy. Empathy is putting yourself in that person's shoes. And I really think that we're really striving for empathy, to say, I hear you, I see you. And where we're going wrong and we're going off, the guardrails are coming off for us, is that we're talking too much now about ourselves, because I shouldn't say we all, not all people. Many of us like to talk about ourselves and joining up with that person. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Just stay quiet. Even if in your mind you're like, that reminds me of my relationship with my mom, and that's okay. Reminding you of something, bite your lip, bite your tongue, zip your lip. Let them continue talking about themselves.
Yeah.
And if you want to go home and talk to your husband, your wife, or your kid, or you want to go journal about it. I had a conversation today. I went on a walk and this is what she's going through. Go journal about it. Tell your story in your book. Don't tell your story right then and there to them.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it for the most part, unless they say, have you been through something similar? And even if they ask you, say, yeah, I have. And this, but please be mindful of how much time you're taking up talking about yourself.
It seems like great advice to either pause in your head, like, don't say that, don't share that story. So either listen or ask a question. That'll force you to shut up. If you ask another question to that person, let them get right back into their story. Make it like, so how do you feel? It's one of those type of questions, right? Where you're just like, you want them to expand on something and then shut your mouth.
When that happened to me a few years ago after my dad died, and I was on that walk with my friends, and that happened. And I would be remiss if I didn't share this. So I was grieving. I just gotten home. It was like 2 weeks after his death. My grieving went on for a long time after that. And I was looking forward to that walk. I felt so heavy after that. I physically felt a heaviness. Once again, there was a wet blanket that had been draped over my shoulders and that I had to carry. And that conversation didn't help that. It felt heavier. So what do? We put on a smiley face. We just kind of suck it up. And I'm used to sucking it up, as many of us are in life. You suck it up, deal with it. Had dinner, had some drinks, had a grand old time. Fun. Because I wanted it to be that way. And I was like, I don't want to talk about this anymore either. I don't want to talk about my grief right now. And I don't want to listen to you talk about your grief. So we moved on and had a fun night. When I got home that night and I told you about it, I felt just a heaviness. And I wonder if how many of you have felt that way as well. I'm sure that those who are listening or watching, this is resonating for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's important just for all of us to ask ourselves, have I done that before? Has that been me? Because I know I have done that before. So this is a lesson for all of us. This is life's work. This is life coaching because this is our life's work, that we're not perfect, that we don't always do it all right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
If you've been this person, throw yourself grace and do better, but make the effort to do better.
Because safe to say, you've been on both sides of the fence with this conversation.
Yeah.
And remember how it felt when you were on the opposite side of the fence, right? So have that in the front of your mind. That's probably good advice
Yes.
too.
The AG1 you've heard me talking about for so long just went through a major upgrade. AG1's Next Gen is here. So what is Next Gen? It is a daily health drink clinically shown to support gut health and close common nutrient gaps, even in the healthiest of eaters. With 5 new probiotic strains and additional vitamins and minerals, AG1 Next Gen represents the biggest step forward for daily foundational nutrition. 1 scoop in the morning with 8 to 12 ounces of cold water adds up to whole body health from vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. AG1's Next Gen is now one of the most clinically backed greens powders. Can you believe it? They went above and beyond the industry standard in testing and have made a great product even better. AG1, it's been a game changer for me for my mornings. It sets the tone for my day, helps me feel my best, and I genuinely look forward to drinking it in the morning. Now, clinically backed with an advanced formula, this is a perfect time to try AG1 if you haven't already. I've been drinking AG1 for more than 5 years now, and I'm so happy that I am partnering with them. So subscribe today to get the next gen of AG1. If you use my link, you're also going to get a free bottle of AG D3K2, an AG1 welcome kit, and 5 of the upgraded AG1 travel packs with your first order. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/Anna to get started with AG1's Next Gen and notice the benefits for yourself. That's drinkag1.com/Anna. Okay, so I wrote down some sentences of things I think are important, give you all some examples of what you can say, what you can use. And I really was focusing on this episode more probably on illness, chronic disease, but also like when people are going through separations and divorces, maybe a little bit of finances. You're not going to hear enough about people talking about their finances because it's very private. You may sometimes hear a little bit about it. If you're with a close confidant, they may share with you. So somebody is going through a serious illness in their family, of themselves or their loved ones, or there's a chronic disease. Remember, these are the pitfalls that they feel they're exhausted, they're fatigued, and please don't ask them to, air quote, explain it again. That's very much a burden that's being put on them. That's a big no-no. Don't ask them to explain it again. What happens is they will isolate even more. Social isolation rates really rise sharply after there's a diagnosis in the family. People are going to cocoon, they're going to go into their homes and they're going to isolate because of the overwhelm and the mental and emotional load. You don't want to be the caring friend. You're coming in with a good heart, you care, but don't go in asking them to explain it to you.
Yeah.
That's going back to
Because then they have to relive the story and the emotions that go with
Don't
it.
do that. When you had lymphoma cancer back in 16, and people were really good. People really didn't do that, actually. So what's a high impact move for you all to do in a situation like this? That's the don't. Here's the do. The do is drop off a meal. Text them dinner outside your door. You can text them, when do you need help with the kids? Not what do you need? I've said that before on the podcast, because the person who's going through, the family member who's separated or just received a diagnosis of a chronic disease or a cancer, they're not going to say, this is what I need. They're not going to do that. They're completely in crisis and overwhelmed. So I want you to just go order food from Panera and drop it off outside their door. When do you need me to drive the kids? I'm doing carpool. Come up with a solution, and then the person can say, yes, that would be great. Can you do Wednesdays? Perfect. And now you have something that you can do as the caring friend, but you haven't burdened the person that's going through it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you feel like I'm kind of giving in. I'm backing down and I'm asking for help. Like you don't like that feeling inside yourself. But if somebody comes in like, oh, what can I do to help you? You're never going to be like, well, you could. You're not.
No,
You're
for
going to
help.
say, I'm good. But if somebody comes in and says, hey, I'll do this or this or this, you're more likely to receive that and accept it.
Well, the best thing during that time, and I even learned because my friends taught me,
Yeah.
and I had worked in oncology and been working with families in crisis for years and knew caregivers. And so I knew that whole world. But it was very different when I went through it with you. The best thing was I did have a couple people who didn't know, and they said they would text me, let me know what I can do to help. And that's not happening. I
And
didn't,
and
there's
that
no way I was going to text you.
well, and that's where it ended,
Yeah.
right?
And they never did do anything
Right.
because I didn't text them. Well, I'm not going to text you
No
because
judgment, but that's where it ended.
that's where it ended because
Yeah.
I couldn't think straight
Yeah, yeah.
about how you could help. But here's what has had a lasting impact on me and what I do now. Somebody set up a meal train, a meal chain or whatever, and they organized it. And that was wonderful. And every day there was food or delivery outside our door. And they'd say, food outside your door. That was it. And they would drop it and run. And they didn't stay. And they knew. I thought to myself, because I had not been through this in my personal life, oh, they must have gone through this in their family. Because I mean, I look out the door, I'm like, where are they? They're gone. The
Yeah.
car, they were gone. Then I seriously, I think they dropped it and ran, got in their car and took off. They didn't want me to have to talk to them. They knew that I didn't want to have to say, huh, thank you. And they knew, like, I don't want Anna have to talk to me or say hello or say thank you. I'm dropping and it's like DoorDash. I'm dropping at your door and I'm dashing out. True DoorDash. It was wonderful. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. And you could do that for someone who's going through a divorce. We need each other. We
Yeah.
need help. And
Th-
that's one thing you can do.
This falls in line with like so many things you and I have talked about. Like there should be a class that every human has to go through and get exposed to some of these suggestions.
And listen, I'm saying to all of you who are listening or watching this, like, no shame in your game. Many of us did not learn this. Many of us did not learn this from our parents. We didn't see this. Maybe we had parents who were just more of an introverted personality and didn't have a lot of friends or just didn't do it for whatever reason. So we didn't learn this. I actually learned by watching my friends how they treated you and me when you were going through your chemo and your treatment, what really caring, good friends do and how they show up in life when you're in a crisis. We'd never been in a crisis before.
True.
When my mom had cancer when I was very young, I was 13, we had meals, but that's not what I refer to because it was so long ago and I don't remember it. I remember the food all in the kitchen. I do remember that. But that didn't register in 16 that that's what people should do. You're just not thinking straight. You just think, whatever. I mean, I can still go run to the grocery store, Anna, your wife, and get food. It's not that big of a deal, but wow, is it helpful? Okay, let's go on. Remember too, like with a bad breakup or a separation of a marriage or divorce, there is shame going on, even if you're like, why? You're finally separating that man or that woman who treated you like crap. They're a jerk. Remember, for the person who's going through it, that's your friend, there still is some shame. There's a stigma around it still to this day, 2025. There's shame. There's a huge loss for them, even though maybe if they even wanted it, worse if they didn't want it, they're going through a grief and loss period. It's like a death, except the person's still alive. There's a loss of identity of who I am, who I always thought I was, and who I was going to be when a relationship breaks up. Okay. And there's also legal complexity that is going on and swirling in their minds that they don't want to talk about. What I would say to you is stay neutral about the ex as best you can. Stay neutral. Even if they're like hating them and ripping on them, you stay neutral. I think that's important. As a friend can validate the grief and the relief, that there's grief and there's relief. Validate both. Both of those feelings can exist with your friend who's going through a separation, divorce, a bad breakup. You could suggest things like practical help. Do you want me to help you find a lawyer? I can certainly do that for you. Let me help with the kids' schedules. Or, like I said earlier about the one around chronic disease and medical diagnoses, I'm going to take the kids on Wednesdays. People who are going through bad breakups, separations, they need help too.
Yeah.
And we forget. We put them in a different category. Put them in the same category as your friend who's really sick. They need help.
They need a break.
They feel so alone.
Yeah.
It's so isolated.
Yeah, it's a good
I
point.
know. I've been see this weekly in my office. Now, financial crisis, you might not know as much about that because there's a high stigma around having financial problems, especially with someone who's done very well and now their business has not worked out. They're an entrepreneur, the business has failed, or they got let go from their job, There's a lot of stigma around that. There's a lot of embarrassment and shame too. Sometimes we give unsolicited budgeting tips now, like give you some budgeting tips.
That's so the last thing they want to
So
hear.
patronizing,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
just patronizing. Like, really? Okay,
Right.
so you think I need you to come in and tell me how to run my business, run my personal finances? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a boundary violation, but oftentimes with the friend, it comes from a place of, I really care about you and I want to help you. It's kind of like the advice giving. They didn't ask for it. They didn't ask for it, so don't give it.
Right.
Okay. You could ask something like, would talking logistics feel helpful right now, or would that feel heavy for you?
Yeah.
Would talking logistics feel helpful or heavy right now?
I think this one's a tough one. I don't think
It's a
this
tough one.
this one doesn't really come up.
And we don't see it a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see it with the friends who were very high 6 figures to 7 figures who lost their job. We've seen that, and they're all of a sudden home, and like, whoa, this has got to be rough. This has got to be rough.
Yeah.
They're now in their 50s and 60s, and there's an ageism is real, and they're not in a rate to retire. I worry about those individuals. I really have worried about those individuals. We know who they are, and you
Yeah.
worry. You worry. We don't know each other's finances. You just worry like, oh, geez, they were like working. They traveled all the time. They were gone 60, 70 hours a week, 40 hours a week. And now they're home all the time. And I know they're tinkering in their garage or they're running a lot, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's where the conversation should go.
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing?
Or
yeah.
just, let's walk. Would
Right.
you like to meet for coffee?
Right.
Or hey, I volunteer at the soup kitchen. If you ever want to do that,
Yeah.
I go Friday mornings from, I go 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm the food prep. Do you want to come with me? We're looking for positions or people to help.
Right.
Do something like that instead.
Yeah. 'Cause this one's a bit unique in that probably by the time that those conversations happen, whatever the incident was is history. That has already taken place. The fall, the job loss, whatever it is, that's gone. It's happened. Now you're talking about picking up pieces later on. Maybe it's a month later, maybe it's 6 months later. That's when we are there to like be supportive and ask how we can be more supportive, maybe.
It's dicey. It's a dicey.
It is. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And then around chronic caregiving. So this is around chronic disease. This is around people who are taking care of their elderly parents. And maybe there's a dementia going on, but really in every other way, they're quite healthy. Whoa, caregiver burnout. That is a real thing. It's just a tough one. And I see it all the time. I'm watching it in my own family right now. It's really hard. So I think that what you can do some pragmatic things here. You can offer a 2-hour break to the caregiver, go on a grocery run for the caregiver. Those are things that you can do. Like you go, I got this. You go play basketball, you go to the gym, you go to the movies, actually go to the movies. You go, get out of here. I got this. I'll stay with this person. What do you need? Go over, write down the grocery list. Okay, I got this. I'll be back. I'm going to go do all of it. Clean the place. That could be something you could do. Go and clean. And check on their mental health, the caregiver's mental health. Oftentimes, the caregiver will talk about their family member, the person they're taking care of. I want to know about you. How are you doing? Really important. It shows care and concern. That's a good friend.
That's the forgotten person. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. That's good advice, actually.
Okay. Lead with language that is helpful. For somebody who, let's say your friend has cancer, you could say, here's the invitation. I've read that chemo days can really be hard 2 days later. Can I drop dinner by then? Or I'm dropping dinner by then. So let's say it's Monday. I'm dropping dinner off on Wednesday. You could say, I heard chemo is really hard day 2, which you know that to be true, Tim. It is. Day 2 is hard for chemo.
It is, yeah.
It's when you get kicked in the ass and you're like flat on your back and you're out of it.
Yeah.
And even if the thing about that was that you weren't eating the food because you had no taste buds, the kids were.
Yeah.
And I was having
some. Well, everybody else, life
everybody
goes
else
on.
Was eating it. Life moves on.
It's still spinning. Yeah.
And they were still going to football practice, still going running and doing other things.
Yeah.
They needed meals. And I was exhausted. So, but I ate it. So that's something for you going back to doing your own education. That's really helpful. So validation, this is really important language of validation. So it makes total sense that you're overwhelmed. There's no right way to feel. I love that. It totally makes sense that you're overwhelmed right now. I think of this with a friend who's going through something really hard in their life. I think it's the mental load of all the things happening in one's life. Maybe your kid's leaving for college. You're taking care of your mom. She's in rehab because she just fell and she broke her hip and you're really worried about her. And she's at a rehab nursing home. You're going there, spending time with her, and you're dealing with your own stuff, whatever it might be, maybe finances with what's going on right now, just all the things, right? And I think it's important for me to hear from a friend, there's no right way to feel, Anna. There's no wrong way.
Yeah.
How you feel is how you feel. What a validation, huh?
Yeah, because it's the quantity.
Yeah.
right? It's overbearing when you start adding all of those things
Right.
together. You're like, oh gosh, yeah.
And I think other language that's really helpful is to be careful of your own boundaries and be careful of their boundaries, because your boundaries, you may want to run roughshod over them, because if you've got codependency tendencies in you, you want to go and rescue and take care of them. Don't do that. They need to have boundaries. You need to have boundaries. If you'd rather talk, we could just text. And even if they don't say anything to you, or you text that and they don't respond to you, there's your answer. Text them. They don't want to talk to you right now.
Okay.
And that's really helpful. So you could just text, hey, I'm here for you no matter what. I'm here for you. Let me know how I can help with the kids. I'm dropping off a meal. Okay. And they're probably not going to text you back, but just know that they know the person with the chronic disease, the family member with the chronic disease, they know that the door is open.
I mean, you and I talked about this years ago. It's like, just be a doer. Just do stuff. Put something into motion is best.
Watch for those red flag moments with people. So if you hear something that's concerning to you, like, whoa, 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 what did they just say? If you hear hopeless statements like, nothing really matters anymore, or you're noting really drastic behavior shifts or changes because you know that person, encourage professional help. And if you hear something that's a red flag for you, what I've had done with me, or I've done, is I'll go check it out with another friend. I usually choose someone who's maybe closer to them. Like, they just said this to me. I need to tell you, I need to tell somebody. And sometimes the friend who's closer can go speak to them. If you're the person that someone comes to you because you're the close friend, I appreciate when someone says, hey, I need to check this out with you. They just made this comment. And then I think to myself, all right, that's concerning. Then I would go and I encourage professional help.
Yeah.
You need to go talk to somebody. Let me get you. Would you like me? I'm going to get some names of therapists. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Usually they're okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a.
But you have to guide that. You have to facilitate it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And then do it.
Yeah.
Follow through. That's your action step. Do it. Look for therapists. Go through word of mouth. Get names of therapists. So you could say something like, you matter to me and I'm worried about you. Would you consider talking to a therapist? This is tough for anyone. Would you consider talking to a therapist? I've got some names of people who specialize in what it is you're going through or specialize in this. That can be really helpful, because you don't want to just go talk to any therapist. You want to talk to someone who's been through or knows what it is that you're going through. A therapist who's seen a lot of people going through divorce, a therapist who specializes in working with family members around cancer, like myself. I've done that. I get referrals all the time for family members of those cancer patients all the time, because I worked in oncology for years. A lot of people still know me in the communities around here as being an oncology therapist. If that feels useful for you, I'll help you find one. That's like the best thing you could do, I think, really.
Yeah.
And then do it and email them names, phone numbers.
Make it happen. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
Okay.
good advice.
And then I think it's really important for you as the friend to take care of your own nervous system. This is really important. Last but not least, tend to your own nervous system. So empathy is not a competition. When you've had a heavy conversation with your friend who is sharing with you and is talking to you, I think you need, now I'm talking about you, the friend of, you need to name the emotion you're feeling. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling anxious for her, for him, for them. I'm feeling so sad for them. This is so heavy. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much for them. It's too much for me. This is too much. That's okay.
Yeah.
Name that emotion. Name the way you're feeling. You need to do a somatic reset. Get yourself back to emotion regulation. I've talked on here so much about the breathing techniques. Do box breathing. Do the 4 inhale, the 2 sips at the top, and then the big 8 breaths out. That's changing your physiology. Actually, I just got a little lightheaded doing that right now.
You good?
Yeah. Whoa. I did it too fast. So don't do it as quickly as I just did it. But I'm going fast through this. But so do a somatic reset, okay?
Yeah.
That helps to change your physiology, get you from sympathetic back into parasympathetic mode, which is your rest and digest state. Please take care of yourself. If you are caregiving your friend and you're doing all the things that I've talked about today, you got to take care of you, because you are feeling empathy for them. You have empathy for them. That is wonderful. That is wonderful of you. And you must take care of you. And I want you to debrief with someone. I want you to go and talk to your therapist, your life coach, about what it is that you're experiencing around your friend who is going through a really rough time. Don't just take it all in and shove it all in and push it all down inside yourself. That's not good for you.
And that's probably the norm.
And it is the norm. I would not recommend that.
Yeah.
To any of you. Take care of you if you're the friend of.
So there's a
right?
little bit of a domino effect here, is what you're suggesting. There's a moment where the person that's coming in as that friend needs to recharge and be ready for chapter 2 or chapter 3 or whatever it is. Because you're going to start to deplete your resources that you're trying your best to help with that other person.
I'll speak about this professionally. What will happen is you'll get into burnout, especially
Yes,
if this
that
is a
makes sense.
long-standing chronic disease or an illness that's going on, or it's just a caregiving situation that's going on for months to years. And I will tell you, learn from me. I'm a cautionary tale of burnout. I have burned out. I burnt out when I worked back in maternal and child health. I've talked about that on here, but I haven't really talked about my own burnout. I burned out because I was working in child abuse. I was working in the neonatal intensive care unit. I didn't take care of my own needs of all the things I saw and heard. And I left that job. And my boss was upset. You can't leave. Why are you leaving? The whole team, which is a great compliment to me, they were like, no, 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 you can't leave. You can't leave. I was done. Stick a fork in me. I was done. I was actually overcooked. What's the lesson? The lesson was I should have been in my own consultation. There's a lot of things I should have done and I didn't do. And then I was just like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I can't see one more cocaine baby. I cannot see one more abused child. I'm done. I mean, the DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services in Chicago, we knew that those investigators, the turnaround was 1 year, was a 1 year turnaround. When I worked in child abuse, then I understood why they only stay for 1 year. There's only so much a person can see before we go into our own. We develop PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, actually to the point where it's a clinical disorder. And I was moving in that direction. So cautionary tale. And then when I was in oncology and even in my practice, I had to stop seeing so many people with eating disorders. Specifically, anorexia was very difficult. And I couldn't just have cancer patient after cancer patient, stage 4 terminal. And I did, and I burned out. Even in my consultation, it was just too much. There were days, well, I can't tell you. I mean, I'm so tight with all the oncology people still because they would see me coming out of a patient's room, the secretaries, all the other nurses, all the infusion nurses, the nurse practitioners, all of them. They would see me come out of a patient's room and go into my office and close my door. And then they knew.
Something
Yeah.
changed.
They were wonderful.
Yeah,
They knew.
yeah,
I can't believe I'm crying about this now.
yeah,
I would hear a little knock on the door, and it was someone in the team
yeah,
was at the door, like, because they all were watching me. And
yeah,
like, Anna, you okay? Because
yeah.
they knew I carried a burden that none of them carried. They were the nurses of, but they didn't have the conversations I was having. I was the one having those conversations. And I'm going to toot my own horn to all of us therapists, social workers, counselors, everybody who is listening to those stories. And sometimes the nurses are doing it too, but at least in my experience, not the extent that I was. And they loved me and they loved what I did. And they also knew that, oh, this is a lot. There were times in my office when I would hear stories that I'll never forget. Like one time I just shut the door to my office and I just leaned up against the wall of my office and I sort of slid down onto my butt. And this is this particular trauma work that I was doing at the time. My consultant said, you got to stop seeing so many of these patients. You can't do it because I was burning out. So please don't do what I did. I am the cautionary tale because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to show up as that friend. You won't be able to show up as really it's the friend we're talking about in this episode. For me, it was the professional kind of caregiving of other people, caregiver of others. You won't be able to continue to do the work if you don't take care of you and take those breaks, go out in nature, go for runs, go for walks, go for friends, laugh, go out to dinner, all the things. Find your own therapist, find your own coach, somebody you can talk to, you can debrief with. You need to do that. All right. So let's go quickly through. This is your quick reference checklist. So write this down. Number 1, ask permission to talk. Number 2, arrive informed. Really important. So do the 15-minute research rule. It's a 15-minute research. Do that. That's a rule. Have some information beforehand. Listen 70% of the time, talk 30%. Be very aware of that. Listen 70% of the time, talk 30%. That bears repeating. Validate before advising people. I would say validate and don't advise. Don't give people advice. They don't want it. Unless they specifically ask you for your advice or your opinion, or they want your feedback, don't give it. Offer concrete, low pressure help. Concrete helps. When do you need me to pick up the kids? I'm dropping off food. I'll call whatever. I'll call your boss for you. Tell them what you're going to do. Okay, thank you. Oh, geez, thank you so much. You're helping with their mental load more than you realize. Respect pacing and privacy. Respect their pacing, respect their privacy, and debrief and regulate yourself. Okay?
That's
So
complete.
this is part 2 of what we don't really talk about very much, but I wanted to do this because it's been coming up a lot and something that we've been talking about for decades in my office with clients.
Those are good takeaways. I mean, I think for a lot of different things, those are
Yeah.
good takeaways. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Please don't forget to rate, review the podcast. We so appreciate all of you who are listening and are watching here on YouTube. Your reviews make all the difference in the world, and it's helping to improve my rankings globally. This is a top mental health and wellness podcast. I don't know if you all know that, but this is a top ranked podcast. Let's get it even higher. And as always, if you want to work with me, you know where to find me.
Love it.
Okay. Mad love, everyone.